Hey, Joe, guess what?
What?
You have the right to remain silly. What's up, y'all, and welcome to Uncultured Universe, the podcast where friends and lovers show each other movies, TV, music, or books just to get a little bit more cultured. I am your law-abiding host, Justin, and with me is the debaucherous, antic-fueled, criminally uncultured, yet handsome, Joe. How's it going, Joe?
You're really switching it up on me today.
Just keep it on your toes, man.
I have the right to remain silly, but do I have the capacity? Let us find out.
I don't think so. You're wearing a polo shirt, so I don't think you can. Today,
I'm recording right after work.
I know. Today, we're going to be looking at the hysterical and the super absurdist Broken Lizard comedy from 2001, 2002, technically, Super Troopers. For those of you playing along and keeping up at home, this is not the episode that we talked about at the end of our Superstar episode. We were going to do Robocop from 1987, but I switched it up on Joe. Classic, by tendencies to not make a decision. And I was just like, Joe, I don't think I want to do Robocop anymore. Let's do either Super Troopers or Team America World Police.
I don't think you can blame Bi on that. I think that's something else.
That's something else entirely. Just neurospiciness.
All indecisive people are Bi.
Yes, the two are not mutually exclusive. We ultimately landed on this one for our hilariously deemed Crime Corner July. The two movies we've picked are narrowly threaded by just the theme of law enforcement, police officering, and things like that.
Yeah, really trying as hard as we can not to call this a cop miniseries right now.
I'm not going to say cop miniseries. Don't you fucking do it.
How did we get here? Let me get this off my chest. You originally said RoboCop, and I was like, okay, I know of RoboCop. Haven't seen it. Good pick. Yep. Then you said we landed on Super Troopers, and I was like, okay, this could be one of three things in my mind. And I didn't know exactly what Super Troopers was.
Okay.
So this movie that I was vaguely aware of, which is about state troopers pulling people over in their antics. I also thought it might be Starship Troopers, which I was wrong about, which is the space one with like lizards. That's like an allegory for
like war
jingoism.
Jingoism. Yeah.
And then I also got it confused with, did you say Team America World Police? Is that the puppet one? One of them is like
that's the puppet
claymation.
One. Yeah, that's the puppet one.
Okay.
Done by the South Park guys.
That one's done by the South Park guys.
Yeah.
And that is not about cops at all.
They're kind of like an elite task force or whatever, and it's kind of a play on how America polices the world, which is just in the title. So they're just like, they're international superheroes, but they represent America, sticking their noses in other people's business. So like, I considered the time frame too of both of these movies. So this one's from 2001, 2002, and it's about the same time as Team America. Both are, differing versions of like gross out humor, ridiculous, over the top humor, crude, that kind of stuff. But I ultimately tried to draw the line between like which one's most like offensive to people and like offensive to watch, and then I nixed that one. So Team America 100% is like way more on runs the gamut of offensiveness This one I think is just a fun little cheeky comedy.
This one has got some shit in it.
It does.
I maybe that kind of boils down to my thoughts on the movie. I'm going to be such a buzzkill for you, Justin. If we're coming from a place of truth and my heart of hearts, and we are in a circle of trust,
yeah,
this one didn't do it for me.
It's a hard one. Yeah,
I think it kind of walked the line between kind of like a more generic, broad comedy with more believable characters and storylines versus kind of more insane aliens come at the end and I see Sasquatch in the background, and I kind of wanted towards one or the other, and it felt like it was in the middle.
Yeah, it was just a straight up down the middle of cops. What if they were just fucking with people?
Right.
What if they were just just fuck off around kind of people,
And it felt, I don't know, like the production history here, but it felt kind of improvisational. Is that the history of this group? It's kind of a comedy group of guys who haven't really been in anything else that I've seen.
Correct. Yeah, we'll touch on the broken lizardness of it all in a bit, but yeah, like I can totally see how this one is, again, it's like a time capsule. It's it is very, early 2000s comedy. It is very, 18 to 25 young white male comedy, which like it definitely solidified itself into that subgenre of people, and we'll dig into that.
What's your entry point to Super Troopers here? How did you come across it?
So this movie dropped in 2000, hit America in 2002. Previously, it released at Sundance the previous year, 2001. So like a full year went by before it hit theaters. But this was a movie that just like everybody talked about. That I remember, like all of my disparate friend groups, like the scene kids in like drama club, and like my band music friends and my hockey friends and stuff like that. This was a comedy that like all the dudes were watching. And it's just like ridiculous, over the top humor. It's like infinitely quotable. So like I saw it like in high school and all through college years. It was one of those like required watchings or something. Much akin to like Pulp Fiction for college age kids, or like anything like Requiem for a Dream or something like that. This is like in that run of just like college movies from the mid to late 2000s and early aughts. So
did you become a fan of the Broken Lizard guys as a result? Like, do you know of them outside of this?
I had never heard of them, but prior to this, I didn't even know. I was like, because like they mentioned like Broken Lizard, Super Troopers, and things like that. Written by Broken Lizard or whatever. I was like, is that like a production company? I don't even know what that is. I'm not going to go on Google and like take up precious dial-up speed time to look it up. I didn't know until like later in college that it was a performing traveling comedy troupe, or that's how they started out. But yeah, like we mentioned this on one other episode. I think it was the Young Frankenstein episode with Cloris Leachman.
Oh wow!
Knew her from the other one of the other Broken Lizard movies that they did called Beer Fest from 2006, and so like I've seen 3 of their like 7 or 8 movies that they've done. Just because
Academy Award winner and multi-Emmy Award winner Cloris Leachman from her role in Beer Fest.
in such roles as Young Frankenstein and Beer Fest. Yeah. That is her claim to fame.
I know her from Malcolm in the Middle. It's fine.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forget about Malcolm in the Middle a lot. That's the second time we brought up Malcolm in the Middle in the past 2 episodes. How fun is that?
Oh wow.
Yeah, right.
I mean, let me be clear, Obama. Anyone who can get a movie off the ground successfully has my utmost respect. And from what I have read, seems like a great group of guys. They seem like they're friends. It sounds like they are a comedy troupe without necessarily like a leader, even though the guy who played Thorne in this, I believe, directed the movie. But they make decisions, they write stuff, they produce stuff like as a unit, instead of like with like one face to them.
Sure.
And that seems nice, you know?
And that's really
like,
cool, right?
It seems like a fun time.
They're Hydra-esque in that kind of way, right? They're a monster of many heads.
Cut off one of them, see what happens.
See what happens. Although, you know, Jay Chandrasekhar does or has produced and directed most of the Broken Lizard movies and some others. But yeah, they are kind of like this amorphous group of just like improvisational, you know, over the top comedy act. But yeah, I chose this one because I was, you know, rifling through my mental Rolodex of like cop movies, and like when I went back to mentally research RoboCop, there would have been a whole discussion of like how could my parents let their 5-year-old watch this hyper violent, insane movie, and it is, maybe we'll come back around to it next July when we do Crime Corner July again next year, if we deem it necessary. But I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to subject Joe to like a super violent, like 80s kind of movie like that. And I was like, let's go a little bit more of the comedy route. And then the other two movies that popped up were the ones I talked about. And just landed on this one because I totally get where you're coming from. But millions of other millennial aged high school, you know, who watch this in high school and college,
they back you up.
They would back me the fuck up, dude. Get at Joe in the comments.
I can't deny the success of this movie. I mean, it made what, like several multiples times its budget,
so many,
on like the independent circuit, and I believe it got a very, very late sequel. Yes.
Yeah, from 2018. It was like part of it was crowdfunded. It was this whole thing. It's like I haven't seen it, but I hear it's famously bad. But you know, that's the trouble when you do these sequels that are, you know, 20 years later. Like they just don't hit the mark. They don't quite have the same kind of punching power.
Guys are a little old at that point.
They're old. Like they got kids, they got families. You know, I'm sure some of them turned out to be cops themselves and they don't find it funny. So like, I totally get it. And that's hard to do. I think this movie was lightning in a bottle for the time of like in American history. It was, you know, it was we had a big, you know, resurgence of just like comedy in the 2000s. I would love to look at a cross section of like the 90s and you know, early 2000s comedies that just kind of like define this generation of film. But like, you know, I think of, you know, millennials going to college and growing up, being young adults, and this kind of hits all the marks for that group. You know, like most of them, you know, love to smoke and drink and fuck around, and you know, it's just, I think it's just it's a good time. It's a good time.
I mean, it's interesting that you talk about this like cross section of time in comedy. I've got the Wikipedia page open right now, and I'm going to the bottom of it where it has like, you know, like the things you may also like section, or like categories that this movie is also in.
Yeah.
And if you look at like 2001 independent films, and then also 2001 crime comedy films, you get stuff like, well, you get Ocean's 11 primarily, which is kind of like the lane that I was in at this time. But then you also have Wet Hot American Summer, which is maybe a little bit closer to what we're thinking here.
Yeah, more independent. Like, yeah.
It's an independent. It's kind of got this sprawling cast. It's got an insane amount of just like shit packed into it, but it's also got like kind of a stoner comedy vibe. Yeah. And I think I was just hoping it would go in that direction a little bit more. Like you watch something like Wet Hot American Summer, and the zaniness is turned up to like an 11 in that one. Yeah. And there's levels of like, I don't know, magical realism. Sure. Whereas with Super Troopers, it's more was weirdly like realistic at certain points, while also being like, oh, these guys just can't stop goofing off.
They're just having a good time.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is, it kind of runs in the same kind of lane of like independent, improv kind of stuff. Like you bring up, Wet Hot American Summer. Like there's tons of like, like a younger Amy Poehler, fresh off her, like SNL stints there, but she came from like UCB, and there's some other UCBers in there. You get Bradley Cooper and Michael Ian Black. You get all these kinds of like famous improv sketch artists. And that's what Broken Lizard does too, but like on a smaller scale. So like that kind of branch of comedy was also having its heyday in the early 2000s, along with just mainstream too. But also an interesting thing to call out too is just like the stoner comedy has obviously fallen by the wayside. Um, Smoking pot isn't as like taboo or as gauche as it used to be. Like everybody's doing it. It's not a big deal. It's medicinal. Like it's not as like tongue in cheeky as it was pushed in the early 2000s. That kind of stuff.
Although, to speak to the first scene of this movie, they are not smoking pot. They are shoveling it in their mouths in a disgusting manner. I was throwing up.
Oh man! Oh yeah, and eating mushrooms and hash.
That amount of mushrooms would kill you.
Kill somebody. Yeah, so funny. Here, let's hit some highlights here. So, as I mentioned, Super Troopers, directed by Jay Chandrasekhar. I always have to take a second. There's so many consonants in his name. As well as vowels. Directed by him, written by the Broken Lizard Gang, starring the entire Broken Lizard troupe: Jay Chandrasekhar, Kevin Heffernan, Steve Lim, Paul Soder, Eric Stolhansky, and then of course we got Brian Cox, Daniel Von Bargen, and Marissa Coughlin. Bringing up just rounding out the cast. Really nice. I love Brian Cox in this. He's fucking hilarious in this one.
I did have "Oh My Brian Cox" as a note once he showed up. It definitely lends this movie a level of realness. Like, wow, they landed Brian.
They got Brian. Them. Yeah. Hey Brian, we got Brian on the line. And yeah, as you mentioned, their budget was very, very small, 1.5 to about 3 million estimated. And then the box office of 23 million. Like that's incredible for an independent.
Yeah, a mil of that budget went to Brian Cox.
You know what? Probably he's like, do you know who I am? And he did the damn thing. But yeah, this movie is kind of one of those like, like I said, it's the lightning in the bottle. It's a nostalgic kind of time capsule era of that time. And I can totally see how it wouldn't translate, obviously, to nowadays, or to someone who, like you, who like just missed the tail end of that, that era.
I was thinking about like what my version of this movie was. Did you ever see The Other Guys with like Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so kind of similarly set in like a cop space, but really poking fun at like the bureaucracy of it all and how like boring it can be. And also there's always an element of like your boss is kind of otherworldly crazy. And you're constantly having to deal with other cops taking over your investigation and trying to outdo you. I did like that aspect of this film, how it was like there's different like hierarchies of cops that we should be rooting for here. There's the troopers themselves, and then there's the local cops who are just like garbage.
Right.
I liked how you could kind of almost see the troopers as not necessarily cops in a regular sense, but they're more like they're slightly cooler in a way.
Oh yeah.
They're slightly more on the free side. They get out there more. They're less dirtbaggish, and so I can see that angle for rooting for them. but then it kind of makes me disappointed at the end when they just become the cops.
They just take over that department because everybody else got canned because they were, anyway, that's
maybe
part of
they'll bring more fun to the cop department. I don't know.
I mean, and that's kind of what they were hinting at, right? With that ending scene, they're like, "Hey, we're a part of this police station now, and we're gonna have a good time with it, right?"
Yeah.
All that for a noise complaint. Before we dig too deep in it, let's watch this trailer, and then you can give me the plot description, Joe.
Oh God, I'll try.
Yeah. So much fun.
Little bit of Owl City Fireflies towards the end there.
And that was the high time for Owl City, I lived and breathed Death fucking album, dude. That movie, what's Owl City up to these days? Let's shoot him a line.
I have no idea. I think they had 2 hits for me while I was in high school, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was big time in college, Mayor. All right, let's put 1 minute. Let's give you 1 minute on the clock to give me your best version of a plot description for Super Troopers. On your mark,
okay,
get set.
Hose myself.
Get ready. Get set. Go.
Okay, Super Troopers is about a group of state troopers up in Vermont. They like to fool around. They like to prank the people that they pull over. They're constantly trying to one-up each other, but in a bro-y way. Their boss is Brian Cox. They learn that either the mayor or the governor, I got really confused, is pulling their funding in favor of the local cops. All of this is happening while there's kind of a marijuana drug ring happening in their local town that they are slowly catching on to. It basically turns out that the local cops are in on it, and even though the Super Troopers lose all their funding and they all lose their jobs, they do end up framing or catching the local cops, and so it turns out all the local cops get fired, and in the end, the Super Troopers kind of take over their jobs. So now they are the local cop department, and the guy and the girl get together.
The end. Wonderful. Well done. Yeah, I mean it's a very simple story.
Yeah, I made a conscious decision to skip the middle of the movie with that plot description.
I mean, there's nothing really else in the middle. There's still it's a lot of fucking around. And it's how do they uncover this mystery that's there of drug smuggling? There's so much pot being pushed through this small town, this sleepy small town in Vermont, which makes sense why they would probably be able to fuck off as much because there's hardly anybody who lives there in town.
You get the feeling that they don't deal with a lot of crazy high-speed chases or murder cases in this town. And the people who pay the taxes that pay them are kind of okay with it.
Yeah.
They're cool in a way, and they have a cool boss who Brian Cox is kind of a hard ass, but he also lets them have fun because he's one of them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And you really see him cut loose at the end when they all get fired. What was I going to ask? God damn it. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the ending of this movie? Because that did surprise me how they turn out to be the cops at the end when you think that they're all fired.
Yeah, so either Captain O'Hagan or whatever didn't finish reading the letter, or there was another subsequent letter that came from the mayor, not Lucy Lawless.
It's Linda Carter.
Linda Carter, yeah, which is a fun little cameo. either they sent another letter later or something like that of just like, hey, we appreciate that you uncovered this deep, corruption in the local police department. We are still going to have to shut down the highway police department, but like there's the big but your officers can now take over the local police department if you want. There's not enough room in the budget for 2 departments, so like these guys are assholes, they suck, they're all fired. So there's a whole department to fill. You guys can go in.
Is it kind of the implication that they are also doing highway patrol though too? Because like weren't the other cops going to take over their highway patrol duties?
Maybe.
Who's patrolling the highways?
I mean, they stopped so much pot getting through, so it's just like we don't need a highway department, I guess.
They're just good for a few years.
They're just good for a few years. I don't know how it works. I don't know what the plan was, but it was a consolidation of power move kind of a thing. But yeah, like I that's how I read the ending. It's kind of like let's just pick up the circus tent and move it to a different location. They're still going to have fun and do their antics there, but like, hey, we have jobs now.
I love that a lot of this movie is Brian Cox just like pleading with them to stop pranking, and they just like physically cannot stop goofing off.
They just can't not. And like, there's so many fun things to it.
On the line right now, and they're like, "We're gonna go play the Meow game with you," which make me laugh.
That game in particular was like one of the biggest things to come from it. Several notable like sports stars have done the Meow game in interviews, post game interviews. It's so fun and like silly and innocent, and Jim Gaffigan gets a good laugh out of it, so it's great.
Yeah, I didn't fully understand what they were talking about as they're okay. So like they pull this guy over, and one of the cops bets the other cop like he can get to a certain amount of meows, and I was like, what is happening? What are we doing right now? And then he starts talking, and he drops in a meow. I almost didn't notice it at first when he's like, "All right, meow."
It's like, I'm sorry, are you saying meow?
It did kind of kill me. That and like the random part where he's just the main Thorn guy is looking at a photo on the computer and doing the enhance bit. Where he just keeps on saying enhance.
That was like those two things were so big in school. I remember.
Is that where enhance comes from?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
God.
For sure.
Wow. Yeah, we use that all the time.
Yeah, little did you know that's where it came from. Right? There's so many good quotes from this movie that I love that has found its way into everyday conversation. If I'm on a job interview, something crazy. Chicken fucker is a good one. You boys like Mexico is a good one from the beginning. So much fun. And then of course you also get the good classic, the Who Wants a Mustache ride. Which has stood the test of time. Anytime anyone wears a mustache, you kind of have to say, "Who wants a mustache ride?" Just
one of many bizarre sexual scenes in this movie.
Which is a fun thing, right? Let's look at that for a second. Arcot Ramathorn is in a polyamorous relationship.
Is that what it is? His wife or the mother of his child is kind of described as like hippie-ish, right?
Yeah, like, and his girlfriend kind of a thing. But of course they swing hardcore with that German couple who comes through.
The German couple who they arrest and is apparently just like in jail this entire time. But they kind of like want to be there. They're kind of turned on by being arrested.
Typical Germans, like is that commonplace with Germans? Maybe.
Yeah. If I had to rank the weird sexual moments of this movie, it is okay, the Romeo and Juliet of the police force getting together. That happened way too quickly, but that's at the top, I guess. Then it's like pulling over the German couple in the car. That's a fun bit.
Yeah.
Then it is, oh God, what was the other one? There was one that I forget. And then at the very bottom is the bizarre shower scene where they like what is the name of the guy? They catch the inner city cops catch one of the state troopers, and then all of a sudden
Farva,
they arrest him because he goes crazy at like the burger joint, and then all of a sudden you see him naked and getting hosed down in the middle of the police department. Like what is that? Is that a normal thing to do?
They called it delousing, which is a thing, but I don't know what they're supposed to use. They said he was powdered sugar, and it was delicious.
The part where he's simulating fucking the bear. That was the one that I missed.
Oh, that one too. That's right. Fucking the bear. That's right. With this with the Halloween costume.
Bear fucker. Interesting movie.
Bear fucker is another good quote. Two animals called animal fucker, chicken fucker, and bear fucker.
So, do you think of this movie when you get pulled over by a cop?
Let's see. Since this movie has come out and since I've seen it, I probably have.
Well, yeah, let me back up. Have you ever gotten pulled over by a cop? I shouldn't be assuming here.
Many times. And since this movie came out, I've probably been pulled over a handful of times. And yeah, it comes into my mind because it's like, hey, these guys aren't having as much fun as I would like them to, like the gang, the Broken Lizard gang from Super Troopers.
So you always get handed a ticket and you're like, the Super Trooper guys would never.
Yeah, it's like I didn't even hear one fucking meow. Like what gives? What's the deal? In my best Jerry Seinfeld. But yeah, for sure. Like I've been pulled over a bunch. Like I've gotten a super speeder ticket. I got a open container.
Justin, what's a super speeder ticket?
That's the one where you're going like 25 over the speed limit.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't seem like a lot, but I guess it is. Yeah,
it's very expensive. I can tell you. Yeah, I got stopped by having an open container, just walking around. Yeah, right. It's not.
Well, that doesn't count.
That's not a big deal. Well, they would beg to differ. And then a couple other like moving violations and things like that. I've been in jail before.
Oh,
yeah. But yeah, you didn't know that about me, did you? Let me tell you.
I might have at one point.
Yeah, I'm a hardened criminal.
How was that for you?
Uneventful.
Really?
It took a long time. Yeah, I took a right turn where I'm not supposed to in East Atlanta Village, right off of Flat Shoals, I think. You're not supposed to turn right on red. Turned right on red. Got pulled over. I got a ticket. Didn't pay the ticket. Forgot about the ticket. 6 months later or whatever, I have a bench warrant because I didn't pay the ticket. I get pulled over because like my tags expired or whatever. And then they're like, hey, there's a bench warrant out for your arrest. You're going to have to come with us. So I go with them. And so I had to stay the night in one precinct. And then I had to be moved to the Atlanta precinct from where the ticket was. It was crazy.
Did this happen like in the context of me knowing you? Because I seem to recall this maybe happening.
It was like my second or third week of starting at supply.com. You hadn't started working there yet.
So that was, yeah.
I was up for 24 hours and I had to go to work the next day and get my car out of impound. It was an adventure with the police.
The craziest weekend of my life.
The craziest 48 hours for certain.
Wow.
Yeah, let's before we get too much further into our bevies, let's have a little cheers. Mine's kind of melted into one thing, but I tried to get one picture of it. It was a layered thing of red and blue to be akin to the police lights that you would see on the top of a car. And I'm calling it a large farva. And it's just like grenadine and vodka and rum and blue curacao and sour mix, and it's very tasty, and it looked pretty cool. It looked very cool.
It's very beachy. Free drinks, as he would say.
Mm-hmm. What do you got? You got something fancy, I see.
I put it in a little fancy cup because it's a coupe drink. It's a little coupe cocktail. It's an ounce and a half of gin. It's an ounce of dry vermouth, and then half an ounce of green chartreuse because we had that lying around. And I'm calling it the Super Vermouther instead of the Super Trooper.
Because it's a lot of vermouth. It's very vermouth heavy.
It is actually more vermouth than you would typically put into something like this. Yeah.
Wow, like that's it's an aperitif, right? It's not supposed to. It's one of those.
It's bitter. It's got like a mouthwash type feel, but in a good way.
Oh, but in a good way. It's one of those things you're supposed to eat before you or drink before you eat, kind of a thing. Very cool. Love that. We need to be posting our cocktails more often. I realize we haven't done that in a long, long time.
I took a really good picture of this one.
Oh, good. Okay, well then that'll light a fire under me to get those together. Let's talk about Broken Lizard for a second, and then we'll get into some final thoughts here. So yeah, we already kind of talked about it a little bit that they're, an American comedy troupe. They got together in like the late 80s, early 90s. They met at Colgate University. I said Colgate College.
Did they all major in like toothpaste studies?
I would, just mouth studies.
This episode is my audition to get into Broken Lizard comedy group.
It's going poorly.
I think I'm nailing it.
Guys, I think I'm doing really, really good. Mr. Chandrasekhar, what do you think? They spent several years performing at various clubs in New York City after university. And then after a number of years of doing that, they decided to kind of shift away from doing more of those live performances and things like that. They're like, what's the next evolutionary step? Of course, it's feature lengths. They started with some like indie startup kind of things, like 30-minute short films, and then eventually got into features based on the early success of some of those earlier pieces that they did. Some other notable films that they've done, they got Super Troopers with this one. The follow-up to this one is called Club Dread, and that was from 2004. That one is kind of like making fun of like the slasher horror genre from like the late 90s, early 2000s. Like I Know What You Did Last Summer, that kind of stuff. And then Beer Fest from 2006. We're going to do that one, I think, for Oktoberfest in September. We're going to do Beer Fest as a follow-up to this one. That one's pretty zany. That one's pretty wacky. Again, same kind of thing. I'm going to subject you to it just because it's got Cloris Leachman in it, and she's got some really funny, dirty lines, and it's great.
Yeah. So is it kind of the same formula with each of these movies where it's all of them starring, and then Jay probably directing in this case?
Yeah. They're kind of it's like SNL in that kind of a way, that revolving door kind of a thing. Obviously all different characters. Some are more, like front and center than the others, that kind of a stuff. So they all kind of take their swing. Very different movies, very fun.
I mean, I didn't really mind them as actors. You would, I haven't really seen any of them in anything else, but they are kind of natural on camera. They are, yeah. You can tell they're kind of just like playing versions of themselves.
Yeah, they're just bros. They got really good chemistry. That's a note I have here. Like it's, you can tell like from the second they're on screen that like these guys really could have been cops for a number of years. They all know each other that well. Like you believe
it's the mustaches.
It's the mustaches that takes a long time. Yeah, and it just feels effortless. But of course, that comes from years and years and years of just performing together, which is really hilarious.
Yeah, I couldn't help but like rank them in my head in terms of just like likability and my ability to hang out with them in real life. I would probably go with Thorne up at the top. He seems kind of nice. He's kind of cool. He's kind of the leader, kind of the most quote unquote normal of the bunch, but he can still hang out and be fun. Who did I have next? The guy with the mustache, Mac, kind of the crazy one.
Oh yeah.
I liked when they were shooting at his groin. That was fun.
With the bulletproof cup. Yeah.
At first I was like, wait, what's happening here? And then he goes out there and they do target practice with him just wearing a single bulletproof cup. And that's a fun bit.
It's a good bit.
It's a good thing. It's a good way to show like, oh, these guys, they have fun, but they trust each other at the end of the day.
They really do. They got each other's backs.
Yeah. Who's the other guy? Carl. the guy with the romance storyline, he's kind of straight down the middle for me. I think
Oh,
personally, he's
Foster,
like
yeah.
he's harassing the poor policewoman.
She's
But that's neither here nor there.
She meets him halfway in a couple spots.
She does.
I will say, so like taking all of that out of aside, like out of the equation, some of his mannerisms and some of the ways he tells a story definitely makes me think of our friend Carrie Tucker. Um, just very funny, even down to the shaggy curly hair. Super great.
Is this first Carrie Tucker shout out on the show?
It is.
We'll have to go back and check.
See Tuck.
Yeah. Yeah, the rabbit guy I could take or leave. His scene with the German people pulling over creeps me out. And then Farva is the devil incarnate. I hate him.
He's the worst. Everyone knows that kind of person who's just always trying to like dominate somebody or like be a part of the group that like
no one really wants to be paired up with him for the group project.
Yeah, definitely not. He's a tryhard at the end of the day. And kind of an ass for no real reason. He misses the point of everyone else kind of like jabbing at each other.
He doesn't get it. He takes it too far.
He don't get it. He does take it too far. He calls his parents, which is a fun little fact, chicken fucker.
Are those the parents of the actor?
Yeah, the parents of the actor, which is really fun in there. License and registration, chicken fucker. Yeah, very funny.
That's fun.
It is fun. A couple other things, fun facts here. That was real syrup that they were chugging. They didn't do the entire bottle. They were doing multiple takes back and forth, but it was real syrup.
That was a lot of syrup. How could they possibly do that?
They would just film just like chugging just a little bit and like dump it out and like, all right, let's take another take. Really drinking syrup. They tried it with like thick iced tea, but it didn't look right. It had to do real syrup.
You got to get that consistency.
You got to get the realness in there. And then the last little real fun fact here is when they're at like the banquet and Favre is there and he's like, dude, it's open bar. Like nothing matters. We're going to get fired anyway. And he starts getting hammered drunk and he throws up in the toilet. That's real vomit. He really did get drunk and throw up on set. How fun is that?
Do these people know that not everything has to be real in a movie? There's a level of movie magic involved in like production design.
They spent all their money on Mr. Cox, baby. Like they couldn't do it. They couldn't do any more. Let's see some other standout quotes I love. Double Bacon cheeseburger. It's for a cop. That one's great. The little throwaway line when they get locked, when Mac and Foster get locked in the
marijuana truck,
the tractor trailer, from playing the repeater game. They cut for a second and they come back and they open the doors and it's like, and that was the second time I got crabs. So funny. And then I do love the German couple. They are ridiculous, but that whole time when he's like, do you know why I pulled you over? And he's like, I was driving way too fast.
Just drive fast and leave a sexy corpse. That's their model.
It's on the German flag, I think, in real fine print. Yeah. Let's get some final thoughts here, Joe. So it didn't quite hit, but we talked about that, like why, it's an older movie. This wasn't your generational kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I respect that it's of its time. It made me think of movies around this era that are also kind of in that independent comedy niche. I was definitely thinking of Napoleon Dynamite watching this, talking about just like almost episodic scenes within like a small town setting, dealing with like somewhat zany characters and not like super well-known actors, but that kind of makes it more real in a way.
Yeah.
And then off of that, I also thought of, have you ever seen a movie called The Sasquatch Gang?
No. Tell me about that.
It's made by like one of the guys who worked on Napoleon Dynamite. It's a similar vibe. And I also realized looking at this website, like there's a connection here. The stoner guy in the beginning who's not driving, but who's sitting in the front, kind of like the blonde guy, is in the Sasquatch Gang. I know, so fun. But it's very similar in that it has like one or two like celebrities in it. I think like Carl Weathers plays a guy in it.
Oh, how fun.
But it's just about these like nerdy teenagers in a small town who are like looking for Sasquatch, and like that's their club. And they also do like LARPing with cardboard swords and stuff. And then like
Amazing.
Justin Long plays their neighbor, but he has like the longest mullet you've ever seen, and he's kind of playing like a tough guy who hates them.
Amazing.
It's a wild movie, but it's this kind of level of comedy. There's like a little bit of gross out, a little bit of just like I don't know. It's not the same comedy you would see in like a mainstream movie.
Sure. Yeah.
And it made me there are comparisons to be drawn there.
Let's put that on the list.
Get it on the list.
The Sasquatch Diaries, right?
The Sasquatch Gang.
The Sasquatch Gang. Let's add that to
the Sasquatch Diaries would be an incredible follow-up.
It's all dark. It's got the rosy tinted on the side. It's a love story.
It's written from the Sasquatch's point of view.
Yeah, it's kind of like a 50 Shades of Grey kind of style. Very weird. Which is a whole subgenre of books that I keep seeing on TikTok. It's wild. Yeah, I can't remember the name of one, but it's there's like minotaurs, and it's called like Milking Farm or something like that. Ridiculous. I don't know.
Milking the Tar,
something like that. It's insane. Anyway, yeah, that was Super Troopers. Very fun. Loved your input on it. We love to get real with it sometimes, and I really appreciate it.
This is Honesty Zone.
It's the zone of truth. It's how we do. Let's take a pivot over here, and let's jump over to in-game while we still can. That's right, Joe. We are playing Meow. That's what I call end games. I forgot to put on the graphic there volume 45 because this is episode 45.
We are getting dangerously close to 50 episodes, I noticed.
I know. We need to think of something real big for that. Can't fuck it up. So Meow, that's what I call end games is a fun little thing that I wanted to try here. Joe, it sure looked like they were just having fun harassing and just messing around with Johnny Q Public, right? In Super Troopers. So let's do our own version of games like we were part of the Spurbury Highway Patrol.
Okay.
You know? I'm going to describe a situation for you, and I have we're going to introduce some like mechanics in here. I got some dice that we're going to roll just for some variation and fun thing to play here. This is an improv game. We're just going to have a conversation. It's going to be no big deal. Because that's what a Broken Lizard would do.
So am I like replying to you? Am I guessing things? What's the game here?
Yeah, we're gonna have it back and forth. Don't worry.
Okay.
I will give you more than I did for the Wayne's World episode.
But rules, anything like that.
Yeah. I will explain it out. I got 5 of these for you. And we'll just go there. Here's the situation, Joe. You're walking out on your beat in the afternoon heat. You're a cop, by the way, in all of these. You can't wait to get back to your squad car to cool off. Luckily, it's always running for some reason. But on your way back, you catch a glimpse of a jaywalker. You chase him down, you shake him down, you give him a ticket to get those numbers up, baby. Now, let's see how many times you can work the word meow into this conversation of you giving the guilty party a ticket. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to roll a D4. Odd, you got 1 minute. Even, you got 2 minutes. All right, you got 1 minute. And I'm going to roll a D6 for see how many times you got to say meow. All right. All right, that's a 3. You got to work.
Okay, easy.
You got to work 3 meows. Yeah, this is a little softball toss. All right, so you just tackled the assailant who was jaywalking, and you were writing them your ticket. Let's give me and action.
Yeah, listen here, buddy. Do you know why I'm on top of you right now? Right, meow.
Ow. First of all, did you just say meow? Like I'm just crossing the street, man. What are you doing?
What do you mean? Did I just say meow? I haven't said meow my entire life.
I find that hard to believe.
The mayor of our town, Meownapolis, has implemented strict procedures around how we should deal with jaywalkers. And so,
do you know where you are? This is Austin. We are in Austin, Texas right now. What's going on? Meow.
We're in Austin, Texas right now.
I said right now. Okay, you got 4.
How did I get to Austin, Texas? I don't know if it counts if I'm actually using the word meow.
I mean, what else could you use it for? I don't know. I like the use of Meowapolis. Great, well done. That's number 1.
Wow.
Situation 2. Here we go.
Flying colors.
Flying colors. Your shift just ended. Woof. Your dogs are tired, and you know your partner's going to kill you if you're late again. That roast is going to be ruined. What are you going to do? Just as you're about to go off duty, you walk into a local gas station for your standard after-shift black coffee and a free donut. But as you go to put your cup under the dispenser, you see a punk kid try to pocket some sunflower seeds. A thief! You wrestle his ass to the ground, exerting the totally appropriate amount of force for such a heinous crime. As you read him his rights and issue the ticket, how many meows can you get? Let's see, D4.
Oh, I'm doing meows again.
All right, you got 1 minute again, and this time I'm going to roll a D8 for the amount of meows you got to work in here. Again, you got a 3.
Okay, easy peasy.
You got 3 meows in 1 minute, and action.
Meow, listen here, punk. I don't have a lot to live for in this life, but right meow, I have to live for this donut, and you and your shenanigans are really, really messing that up for me, right meow.
I'm trying to feed myself and my family, so I.
Hey, who is talking right meow? You or me?
Well, I technically was before you interrupted.
Who should be talking right meow?
Are you? I got my hands behind my back. In case you can't tell. Me, because it was my turn to talk. Are we not having a conversation? I'm not.
Wait a minute. Do you hear that? Are they playing meow? That's what I call music in this store right now.
And scene, amazing. I love that. To distract.
I really need to bring in some variation here.
If I love the addition of shenanigans, other kind of broken lizardisms. That's great. Situation 3. Are you ready? Here we go. You're driving along a lonely stretch of highway as you're out on the outskirts of town. Your shift has just started, and the roads have been pretty empty so far. As you go to adjust your radio to a better talk radio station, this radio host is a little too liberal for your liking. You notice another car whizzing by on the opposite direction. After flipping a super badass U-turn, you catch up to the scumbag, fishtail his car, and end the chase. You walk up to the window, give it a little knock, and you issue that hefty speeding ticket. How many meows can you get in? All right, this time we got 2 minutes. Let's see, and I'm going to roll a D10. All right, you got to make it count. You got 1, baby. Give me 1 good meow to end
in
all
my
meows.
Sleep.
All right, and action.
You know, punk.
Yes, officer.
There's people who get away from cops, and there's people who get caught. Guess which one you are today.
I got caught because I pulled over. Was I driving too fast? What did I not have my headlights on?
Were you driving too fast? Let me tell you. There's panthers out in the Amazon who can run at like 50 miles an hour.
Sure.
And I want you to think about that, because
I think
if
you're thinking
one
of
of those
Jaguars.
ran past you while you were standing still, that's about the same relative speed of you driving past me while I was going 50 back there in a 20.
So I too was going 50?
Listen here, Meow. You were relatively going the speed of a panther if it was running past someone who was standing still, but to me, going 50. So you do the math in your head, and you tell me how fast you were going.
I think you might be thinking of a Jaguar, not a Panther. They are famously faster than Jaguars. And scene. Amazing, Joe. We got 2 more here. You're doing great. This is so much fun.
I really need folks to know that I'm getting off of 2 weeks of having COVID.
That's why you're not on your A game. You're still doing great. Improv waits for no sickness. Situation 4. It's your first time out on the police horse. You feel like a goddamn Viking king. Everyone is looking at you as you ride majestically through the park, proudly upholding the law. As you literally and figuratively look down on the public as you ride past, you see a snotty teen zip by on rollerblades. And just after he passes you, you feel the back of your head get pelted by half an eaten snow cone. You're sent into a blinding rage and you wheel around the horse, Justice, to catch the criminal. Once he's subdued, you're riding a horse, the police horse. It's named Justice. You go to catch the criminal. Once he's subdued and wishing he still had his snow cone to ice his heavily bruised forearms and face from your tackling to the ground, you begin to issue his ticket. How many meows can you do in 1 minute? I'm going to roll a D12. The number of meows. Come on, we got to do high. Ugh. This is heartbreaking. A 2. You got 1 minute. 2. I'm rolling so low. I'm rolling like shit today. Joe, you got 1 minute to work in 2 meows and action.
Listen here, punk. Justice here loves General Meow's chicken, and we were just on the way to go get some when I feel a little bit of winter on the back of my goddamn head, and it's the middle of July right now. So why don't you tell me what you think happened here to prevent my horse from getting his Americanized Asian food that he gets every single day?
Officer, I don't know what happened. This is my first time.
Speak up, Meow.
This is my first time on rollerblades. I'm not very good. I had a snow cone, but I didn't see what happened to it.
Oh, so you tripped and your snow cone ended up on the back of my head? Great aim, bud.
Is that what happened? I have no idea what happened. Why does my face hurt so bad?
Is that what happened? You're going to go to jail for years.
Years? I'm graduating this year.
You tell me what they do to people like you in jail?
Let them graduate?
Rhymes with meow.
Oh, no. Scene. Amazing. What do they do to people like who are bound to graduate in jail?
They plow them.
Oh, meow, plow. I get it. Okay. Did you bring up a list of words that rhyme with meow?
No.
Amazing. So, General Meow's chicken. All right, last one here. Situation 5. Last one. It's 9/11 in the morning, and you just arrived at your police desk to enter in some paperwork. Captain walks in, and he's looking like he's ready to rip this entire department a new one. To everyone's surprise, it's not just the captain's ill demeanor or his high cholesterol that's got him all in a tizzy. There's a crazed lunatic who's got a knife in his back. The captain's arms go up to show that he's not going for his firearm. As the lunatic says, he just wants to talk about his outrageous number of parking violations. Once the assailant looks distracted, pull out your side piece, you take the shot from your service pistol, spraying the back of the department with his brains.
Jesus.
As you blow off the smoke from the barrel, you walk over to issue a ticket to the madman. all in stride. As you kick his weapon away and help the captain up with one arm, how many meows can you manage to fire off as you cuff this crazy, now dead person?
Wait, I'm cuffing the guy that I just shot?
Hey, man, you're a cop. You love to shoot things. You got 1 minute. God damn it. I'm going to roll it again. That's better. 10. Give me 10 meows in 1 minute. Action. I don't have to do anything. I'm dead.
All right. I have my gun pointed at you, but then I slowly point it at the captain and I say, meow, meow, meow. No more witnesses. Meow, looky here, Captain. You've been a good captain these past 4 years, but I can't have any loose ends, Meow. You can see how I had to kill my partner here. He was too much of a live wire. He's actually from the Meow region of China. Meow, where was I?
Murphy, you better have a good reason for pointing your pistol at me.
I'm sick and tired of making 40K every year and not getting a lick to show for it right now. I'm taking you down and I'm taking all your money in your spending account.
Not my spending account.
So why don't you give me the password and give it to me right meow? Why don't we take a walk over to this here computer and sit down and you can just like you can type those passwords into your bank account like a little kitty cat that says meow. And
I go into reach and I type down and it's
no, not right meow. Not right meow. Wait.
I was going to type my password in. It's
take a breather.
It's capital M30 lowercase w.
What does that spell? Meow? And then I get too nervous and I accidentally discharge my weapon and it kills you. And then I run.
Fade to black. Amazing, Joe. Well done.
Is that how you saw that going, Justin?
I did not. I didn't think that you would go for the police captain. Incredible. I love that I had you going, that it was 9/11. In the morning. Did. In the morning. Well done, Joe. That was meow. That's what I end games. So much fun. A little improv, a little cheeky nod to the movie and to the Broken Lizard Gang. Joe, why don't you tell everybody where we're going next in this Crime Corner July segment? How are we going to follow up? How could we possibly follow up Super Troopers?
Thank you, first of all, Justin. We are going to keep the good vibes going with Crime Corner July. And we're going to talk about a rather glamorous crime that took place in, I believe, the year 2000 that was quite formative for me as a child. We're going to talk Sandy. We're going to talk beauty pageants. We're talking Miss Congeniality, which somehow Justin has not seen in full, and we'll be able to talk about how this movie played a pretty important part in my current relationship with my partner, and we'll talk through that. A little bit of romance in this one, people.
A little crime cop romance. I love it. Let's rub the badges together. Let's see what happens.
Justin, this is a kids podcast. Jesus Christ.
Is it? I need to stop marking explicit on it then. Incredible. I can't wait for Miss Congeniality. We're going to talk Sandy B. We're going to talk whoever else is in that movie, and it's going to be a good time. We'll do that in a couple weeks.
A ton of folks in this movie.
Great. I love that. Well, cool. Yeah. And then we're going to start planning for our 50th episode. I think that'll be around September, maybe. Definitely September. So maybe we'll come back around and we'll do Beer Fest for number 50 for Oktoberfest. Why the hell not?
We'll talk.
We'll talk. Joe is not psyched. So Uncultured Universe does Super Troopers as we start our Crime Corner July. Check us out on all the socials at Uncultured Universe and wherever you get your podcasts at And also check us out on YouTube and do all the fun things like review, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your cop friends that we did this episode. I bet they are gonna love it.
Mm-hmm.
And play the Meow game. Call your grandma.
Yeah.
Play the Meow game with grandma. Drive her crazy. Bye.
Bye-bye, Meow.